From Ocean Springs, Mississippi, my friend, my colleague, Greg Smith.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Have you ever been in a situation where you were absolutely determined to achieve some goal or task and giving up was just unacceptable to you?
Yes.
Many times, right? But I'm not talking about last night at the bar. I was home alone late at night, a long time ago, and I was watching a football game on television. And I got real hungry, and so I did what all hungry, lonely men do for food late at night. I didn't scarf down a bag of nachos. I ordered a pizza and a 2-liter of Pepsi. Now, this was a good football game I was watching. There were like 30 seconds left, and I'm saying, call timeout, call timeout. And then, ding dong, the pizza guy shows up. So I roll over to the door and open it up, and he puts the pizza box in my lap and the 2-liter on top. And so I'm quickly rolling back, and I roll over to the kitchen table, and I put the pizza box down, and I leverage the Pepsi up onto the table, and the game was over. My team won, and I was fired up, and I ate some pizza, and then I realized my adventure was about to begin. You see, I have muscular dystrophy, and I have very limited strength in my hands and fingers. And I've never in my life been able to open a 2-liter bottle. I don't have the physical strength to twist that cap with enough force to break those ridiculous little plastic tabs to twist the cap off. I've never been able to do that. And I was angry at myself for not asking the pizza guy to do it for me. So it was decision time. I could enjoy a nice, cold, refreshing Pepsi. Or I could drink a cup of room temperature, unfiltered tap water. I decided I was not having water, I was having Pepsi. But how? And then my mind drifted back to 8th grade science class. And I took the Pepsi 2-liter, and with all my strength, I got it up onto the kitchen counter, and I turned the water on until steam rose from the hot flow of water. And I was able to get the cap underneath the flow of water because heat would expand the molecules, right? And then I remembered the one question on the 8th grade science test I got wrong. Metals expand, plastics melt. I was fresh out of Bunsen burners. I was determined at this point. I mean, it's 11:30 at night. What am I going to go knock on my neighbor's door? Bam, bam, bam. Hey, Bob, you awake? You want some Pepsi? What I needed was leverage. I needed more leverage to twist that cap off. And so at that point, I turned into MacGyver. I collected all the things I needed: a drumstick, some scissors, and some duct tape. And I spent the next half hour carefully designing and crafting this mechanism that would allow me to use the drumstick through a loop in the tape to twist the cap with enough strength to break those tabs and get my Pepsi open. It took about 45 minutes to design this thing and get it carefully constructed and everything. And when I was done, I knew it was going to work. I even thought about getting a patent for this thing, okay? So I laid that 2-liter on the kitchen table, and I grabbed that drumstick, and I twisted it with all my strength and all my might. The tape snapped off the cap. And now I was absolutely determined. I was furious. It was game time. I was not having water. I was having Pepsi. Water was for wimps. I know you've all been there with me, haven't you, in some way? In a sense, you being here at this conference is an example of that. You are here because you are thirsty for knowledge and resources to help build your speaking career. You want to leave here with that refreshing sigh of satisfaction that comes when you're refreshed. I'm going to give you some resources that will help you, because I know you want to know how I open that Pepsi bottle and how you can open the Pepsi 2 liters in your life as well. But first, I want you to know a little bit more about where this story is coming from. I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. You see, as I mentioned, I was born with muscular dystrophy. And every year, every month, I'm slowly getting weaker. Every year, every month, I'm realizing little things I used to be able to do that are no longer part of my abilities. I used to walk. And when I was 13 years old, metal rods were attached to my spine because I didn't have the trunk muscles to hold myself upright. Now, I could still walk a little bit in the house until my late 20s, but that ability started to fade away, and pretty soon I realized I couldn't stand up anymore. I cannot easily climb from my bed into my wheelchair. I can still do that too, but it takes a lot of effort, and it's not something I'll be able to do forever. I cannot sit up in bed. I can turn over in bed, but it's a struggle. And if I'm under a heavy blanket, forget it, like last night. Sometimes I have to condition my mind to just resist the desire to roll and just accept it and go back to sleep. I cannot dress myself anymore. I cannot pick things up off the floor. And one thing that I really miss that I can no longer do is ride a giraffe. Just kidding. But what can I do? What can I do? I can drive an adapted minivan. I can go around the country speaking and inspiring people with my words. I can author a book. What else can I do? I can host a syndicated radio talk show. I can have a documentary film about my life, not only made, but aired on PBS and win the Audience Award as the viewer favorite for the year. What can I do? I did tell you I had 3 kids, right? Mm-hmm. Now, I know it's going to be difficult for you to try to understand exactly what it's like to have my situation and my disability. I'm going to try to do that. I want to have a little exercise where you participate, and I want you to put your body in a position similar to mine, okay? You going to play along? Now, hold on. I'll tell you exactly how to do it. And I want you to hold that position while I read a letter that I received from a high school friend of mine, okay? I want you to arch your back forward so that your ribs are sitting out in front of you. Just arch your back. Not your shoulders forward, your midsection forward. Okay? Good. All right. Now, I want you to relax the muscles in the front of your neck because those muscles are hit very hard by muscular dystrophy. So in other words, your head should fall back like this. Now, the only way to get your head up is to lean forward so that you can balance your head. You guys look like a Jerry's Kids poster child reunion. Seriously, though, assume the Greg pose. We'll call it the Greg pose while I read this letter that I got from my friend Chris, who I went to high school with. It says, "Dear Greg, in August of 2005, I had to have the metal rods in my back removed. The rods were protruding through the back of my skin, and I was in extreme pain. And that probably means I can no longer sit up anymore. But at least I don't have all that pain anymore. And yeah, I got a copy of your book, but I've only read the 2 pages I'm in. Your friend, Chris." Okay, you can relax now. Your metal rods have been removed. You've been cured. I want you to heal. You know, when I asked you to assume the Greg pose, I thought that you probably felt a little bit awkward, a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe a realization of some sympathy for me in having to live my life in that condition. And when I received that letter from Chris, how could I feel anything less than inspired? I appreciate my ability to sit upright. And it's an amazing thing because he gave me a lot of drive and ambition with that email. And I tell you what, I really needed it because I wasn't doing very well. I mean, 2005 started off like a bang. One of my favorite phrases in the world is on a roll. And it's a phrase that I use to name my radio talk show. And as a sportscaster, I use it to describe teams that were enjoying positive results, teams that were enjoying momentum, things were going great. I also like that phrase because I am on a roll literally in my powered wheelchair. When you're on a roll, you're strong, you're thinking clearly, you're confident, and you're expecting success. And in 2005, my roll was strong at the beginning. My documentary came out in February. Great response, great press, speaking engagements, phone ringing off the hook. And then my book came out in May, even better. And then the best news of the year. My documentary was chosen to be screened at a National Journalists Conference. My documentary is going to be seen by 500 journalists who would fall in love with me because they'd be so emotionally attached to what that movie does. And so I was very excited about that. And then in June, I just wasn't feeling well. One morning I climbed out of my bed and trying to climb into my wheelchair, and I couldn't do it, and I fell on the floor. Thank God I had my cell phone with me, and I called my father, who came in and helped me get back into my chair, but I wasn't feeling right. I was hyperventilating. I couldn't really get good breath in. I didn't feel well, so he took me to the emergency room, and we waited, and we waited, and we waited. You know the routine when you go to the emergency room. And I felt like I was going to die. My dad brought me home, called an ambulance to take me right back to the same emergency room where I was immediately seen and diagnosed with congestive heart failure. I don't remember very much about the next 10 days or so. A BiPAP machine was placed on me so that it would breathe deep breaths of air into my lungs. I had all kinds of monitors. I remember the faces of friends of mine who were visiting, possibly to say goodbye, from all around the country. I thought about death. My family they braced themselves for it. Some of the visitors, I couldn't tell the real ones from the ones that were in my dreams. One of my visitors was Beyonce. But after that, she stopped returning my phone calls. I don't know what to deal with. When I came to after about 8 days in intensive care, I told my doctor, I said, "Doc, I need to be in Atlanta on Monday for the film screening of my documentary." And he looked at me and he shook his head and he goes, "I don't think so, but we'll see. I'm not going to say no. We'll see." And I think just having that hope of getting well, to be there for my film screening was like my new Pepsi 2-liter bottle. And I got better, but I did not make it to Atlanta on Monday. I was there on Thursday, in time for the film screening. Now, what I didn't know at the time was the structure of this film screening. I thought everybody was going to be watching my movie, but the attendees could choose between 3 movies. So I had to compete for my audience. We had flyers we were handing out. Everybody said, "Yeah, I'll be there, I'll be there." When the time came for the film, it was a giant room, bigger than this, 700 chairs laid out, huge screen, chandeliers. It was a beautiful setup. But when I rolled into that room, there were 15 people sitting in this empty auditorium. 15 people. One of those people was Carol Copeland Thomas. As I sat next to my filmmaker and watched the movie, my mind dug a deep, deep hole. And my spirit and my drive and my ambition dove right in. I can't not describe how disappointing that was, because this was going to be my big event, my breakthrough event, my career moment. But only 15 people were there. When I got home, I was so depressed I didn't do anything for about a month. And that's when I was grabbed by the throat by someone named Katrina. Our house was flooded with 4 feet of water. I lost all of my photos, family photos, videotapes of my kids being born. I lost all of my radio shows for the past 14 years. I lost all my press clippings, about everything, gone. Our house had to be gutted and rebuilt. And at that time, the only option for me and having a living arrangement was a nursing home in Ohio. Now, many of you have probably visited a nursing home. Can you imagine what it's like to be young and live in one? Did I tell you I also lost my van in the storm surge and both of my power wheelchairs? So I was pretty much an invalid in that nursing home in Ohio. I couldn't even turn myself around to see who would be coming in the room behind me. For 3 weeks, I had to live a life of complete desperation, and I had to live in that nursing home for the rest of 2005. The only good part about that was that I had no competition as the young, hot stud muffin. In 2006, back in our home in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, I spent most of the year on autopilot. I didn't socialize. I didn't do any work. I didn't prepare for my radio show, just did the show. I didn't stay in touch with people. I flaked out on a lot of people. If I flaked out on you, I'm sorry. 2006 was not a good year for me. I didn't really do much of anything. I didn't respond to any email until I got that email from Chris. And suddenly I realized I can sit up. I can sit up, and I can drive, and I can fly, and I can get on the platform, and I can motivate people. And I owe so much to Chris for giving me that. I don't feel sorry for him, and he doesn't want me to feel sorry for him. But every time I'm sitting up in my chair, I appreciate it. In very much the same way, I don't want you to feel sorry for me. But if every time you rise to your feet and you remember some of the words that you've heard today, I will truly be honored. I want to talk about the ingredients that it takes to build inner strength. I think that a lot of times in life, we get stronger by enduring difficult times. And that gives us a desire to move forward and the strength that we need to move forward. And I really think that one of the greatest lessons I can teach you is to embrace your weaknesses. Because in those weaknesses, you will find your strength. I've lived a whole life of difficult things and challenges, and I believe that as a result of all that, I'm qualified to give some tips. And what I've really decided to do and determined over the years is that it's simplified. I'm going to give you 3 fundamental tools that you can use the moment you leave here that will build your inner strength and will allow you to accomplish things in the face of difficulties and move forward without difficulties to dreams you've never really even imagined. Sound good? 3 ingredients to building inner strength. The first ingredient is diet. Diet. Now, when I say diet, I don't mean the breakfast that you probably missed this morning like I did. I mean a diet of positive mental nourishment. Every day, taking in something positive, like a paragraph from a book, or a CD, or a tape, or something that gives you that desire to move forward. And it's got to be every day. See, you've already heard this before. You know this. I'm telling the wrong group about the power of positive thinking and self-help materials. But the key is to do it every day is the challenge. We have to have that diet every day. So let's repeat. What's the first way to build inner strength? All right, we'll continue, but I think I'm going to add a fourth called enthusiasm. What is the first way to build inner strength? All right, we might have a team up in here. The second way to build inner strength is exercise. And I don't mean lifting heavy weights because I cannot do that. But I do mean lifting the weights of life's challenges. The difficult things that you know you need to do, but you know they're going to be difficult, so you don't do them. What are the rusty, dusty, spiderweb-infested barbells in the attic of your mind that you know you need to start lifting? Maybe you need to stop smoking. Maybe you know you need to cut down on the drinking. Maybe you know you need to pick up the phone and call possible clients instead of sitting around and waiting for your phone to ring for speaking engagements. Maybe you know you need to write down every word in your speech and record it and listen to it on the plane while you're on your way to giving that speech. I think that trick's kind of working. What do you think? The second way to build inner strength? Exercise. All right, now the third way to build inner strength is discipline. And that means diet and exercise every single day. There's only one result that's possible from your work. So it's diet, exercise, and discipline. But there's another kind of discipline that I want to talk about, and I love talking about, and that is the discipline of sticking with one particular problem until you get it resolved. One particular problem. So I'm sitting there staring at this Pepsi 2-liter. I'm tired, I'm angry. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning now. Dang, Pepsi's not even cold anymore. But I'm on a mission. So I roll out to my garage and I bend down. This is when I could still bend over and pick things up off the floor. And I bent down and I grabbed a wrench and a pair of pliers. And I rolled back to that kitchen table and I set that 2-liter down and I laid it on its side. And I grabbed that wrench and I squeezed it with all my strength and I moved and I turned it. And I looked down and what I'd done is put horizontal scratches around the vertical ridges on the cap. I'd done nothing to break those tabs. I tried the same thing with the pliers, same result. 2:30 in the morning, I took the tools back to the garage, and out of anger, I threw them down on the ground, and they slid over to the corner, and something caught the corner of my eye, and I bent down, and on high speed, I rolled back to that kitchen table, and I laid that liter down on its side, and I raised my hand into the air, which held a dart from my dartboard. And I stabbed the best tasting lukewarm beverage I've ever had in my life. Muscular dystrophy. People often ask me, Greg, what is it like to know that your life is not going to be as long as everybody else's? And you think, I've been told that all my life. When I was a baby, they told my parents I wouldn't live past my teens. And then it was like, okay, well, maybe he'll live into his 20s. And that's when I started my family, And so I've always kind of ignored that, but always known that it's going to be possible. So I think really having a life of limited lifespan expectations has been a blessing to me, because it has taught me that in order to achieve the things that I desire in my life, I need to be more aggressive and more determined to reach out and grab those things. I desire to be able to motivate people on a national level and make people really realize their inner strength. I desire to be loved and to find love. Hopefully find that woman someday who will realize the beauty of having the man that inspires her the most being her man. I have a desire to see my kids grow up and go off to college and see my grandchildren someday. And these things, I try every day and do everything I can. It's a blessing. It's a blessing to live like you're dying. Sometimes when you have inner strength as a result of lifting the weights of life's challenges, you discover things that you can do that you never thought you would do. Beautiful things happen to you. Like, I was given the opportunity to give a speech in the Virgin Islands. I know, poor little crippled boy, right? Go to the Virgin Islands to give a speech. Anyway, I saw a flyer for a submarine. So I took the flyer into the dive shop. And I'd always fantasized about scuba diving, but never really thought I could. And the guy in the dive shop told me that I could scuba dive. I said, nah. And he goes, you can do it. I've had other people with disabilities down there before. And I said, I don't walk, I don't swim, and I do not dive. And he said, let me tell you a story. He said, I'm going to give you the G-rated version, okay? G-rated of what this guy said. He said, I had a friend, this is the guy talking, he says, I had a friend that wanted to go scuba diving, but his wife didn't want to go, so he did both. He went with his wife in the submarine, and he went scuba diving, so I asked him to compare the two experiences. And Marty said, the guy said, going in the submarine is like watching a love story. He said, scuba diving is like starring in a love story. So I said, where's my wetsuit? I was afraid. I really didn't even think I was seriously going to go through with it. But I told my audience in my speech that day that I was going to step into this major fear and to live a lifelong dream of being underwater. And so after doing that, I had thrown my hat over the fence. I had to do it. So right after my speech, I went out to the pool. And they put the tank on my back and the goggles over my eyes and the regulator in my mouth. And I don't like having my head underwater. Finally, it was time to do that. And he told me if anything goes wrong, the symbol for distress in scuba diving is to wave your hand from side to side like this. Any divers out there? Yeah, all right. So he lowered me slowly into the water. And I didn't like being in the water. Was I scared? No. I was terrified. So I started going like this, waving my hand. And he pulls me up, he goes, what was wrong? I said, nothing, I was just testing you. But slowly I became more comfortable with it, and pretty soon it was something that came second nature to me. And the next day, we got out to that boat, and we were getting ready to go down in the water. And my friends were lowering me down, and I was about ready to have a wow moment. Have you ever experienced a wow moment? I had that mindset, and I was ready to go. I was very excited, a little bit scared, but very excited about what I was about to experience. And then Marty, the guy that owned the boat and the dive shop, put on a little mood music to set the scene. Marty, why, man, why? So after all the laughs and making fun, it was time to do it. And I sat on that back of that boat, and my friend Mark lowered me into the water to John, my dive partner, and I experienced a wow moment. I saw colors I'd never seen before. The beauty of the sea, the visibility for so far around us. I saw schools of fish around. My friends were there. We were all smiling with our eyes and waving at each other. It was a beautiful experience. The underwater life was incredible. The colors and the beauty of it. I looked up and I saw the ripples of the ocean above me and the shadow of the boat. And the life below was unbelievable. It was beautiful to see my friends and and experience that moment, and it was just such a thrill, and we were giving each other slow high fives and giving thumbs up, and it was just a wonderful experience. And I was very disappointed to see that boat because the dive was over. We went out and partied like you would not believe. I was scheduled to fly out the next day, but I decided to change my flight because we were going scuba diving again on Sunday. This time with a goal in mind. See, John, my dive partner, kind of handled me with kid gloves on that first dive. We didn't go very deep. And on this next dive, I told John that my goal is to reach down and to touch the bottom of the ocean with my hands. We were concerned about pressure. We were concerned about how my lungs would be able to handle the pressure as we got deeper. And there we are. I reached out as John tilted me forward, and I reached down and I grabbed a hold of a dream come true. What are your dreams? Chances are they might be sealed airtight into the Pepsi 2-liter in your mind. Maybe they're under those dusty barbells in the attic. You know, the ones with the spider webs? Consume the right diet. Exercise by lifting the weights of life's challenges. And be disciplined. Realize that your life will not live forever, and take advantage of that fact. And soon, you will be in a situation where you have inner strength, and things that you never thought you would be able to do will become a part of your wonderful reality. Thank you very much for inviting me to come speak to you today. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Greg Smith.